Hello, hello. Boy, 10 of you out there. Hello. This is Meri at the Meri Atelier. Yeah, we're going to have fun tonight. We're going to do some art. We're going to tell the story of Bobble-head Bob. You guys, I learned something today. While researching for Bobble-head Bob. Let me get stuff out of the way here. Yeah, while researching for Bobble-head Bob here, I learned something. Let me set things up so I can welcome folks in. I can't set this up until I go online. That kind of frustrates me. But we'll get through it. Story time in Fibdiggity. Hi, Pam. Welcome, Pam. Hi, Mina. Hi, Angie. Hi, Mitzi. Welcome, welcome. And my camera up there said 10. My laptop down here says 6. That's weird. Well, if you're up in the balcony listening in, hi, Becky. Welcome, Becky. How have you been? I saw your video today. I need to go back and look at it. The colored slip stitch. Oh, I can't keep up with you, Becky. Hi, Angie Bassett, Angie B. Welcome, welcome. So what did I learn today? Well, while researching Bobble-head Bob, we did this kind of at the end of my morning stream. I wanted to make a bobblehead doll, a wobblehead doll, and see his head wobbles. I decided I was going to do one of these every month. And this month, it's all about Bob. It's all about Bob. And I noticed, this is off of a Tim Holtz found relative, or, you know, one of those portrait ones. And he's got a ribbon on here that says delicate. And I can't see the rest of it. It's all blurred out on the photo itself. So I decided he was going to be a delegate at a convention in Fibdiggity. And I must have been influenced by the magazine that I ripped up because it had some articles on telling stories. So I decided that he was going to speak at the Fibdiggity Art Illustrators Convention. And I made him a little journal here. Now, I still want to put a pen or a pencil behind his ear. I'm going to make a little notepad because he's a storyteller. So when he gets an idea, he writes it down. And we're going to make a little slit here. And we're going to put a cover on his back. And we're going to tuck a little notebook in there. And he's got cufflinks, but I decided he needed bling cufflinks. So he's not quite done. He's got his red shoes on though. And this bling on here. And this is his pointer. He's pointing up at this, all about we all have a story to tell. And he's going to speak at the Fibdiggity convention. But I learned while reading and researching about storytelling, which I'm very interested in, but I did not know that from January 30th to February 3rd is National Storytelling Week. So how interesting that I hit it on the mark here. National Storytelling Week. So we're going to kind of tell a story about Bobble-head Bob here. He's agreed to, he's in Fibdiggity for the convention. And I didn't even know the convention was going on until this morning. But I happened to meet him there. And I invited him to come tonight and kind of do a meet and greet and answer questions. So what I want you guys to do, we're going to do a list. We're going to do a list of questions, and you can be thinking of it. We're not going to do it right away. I'm going to make a little notebook for him. we're going to do a little list about what do you want to know about Bob or storytelling. We're going to get to know Bobblehead Bob here. So think of some questions to ask him. And while you're thinking, I'm going to be welcoming folks in and giving him some cufflinks. I think I need to put these down more. I just put them on there and I need to glue them down. So we're going to make him a little notebook here. And I saw, I saw on here, where is it? One of these. Did I lose it already? Oh, here it is. The Storyteller. The Storyteller. So Bobblehead Bob is going to be the storyteller. I'm not sure where I'm going to put that, but somewhere. And let's see. Let's go back to making the little notebook here. He's going to have a little notebook to keep in his pocket, just in case he gets an idea. And I'm just cutting it out of, just kind of rough cutting this. I'm not concerned that it's all nice and neat because he's not. He says, I get an idea, I'm going to write it down. So let's make it probably about like this. Is that too big? That's a little big. Well, we'll keep the fold. Becky said she's stitching tonight. That's what you call serendipity, Becky says. Yes, it is, isn't it? Serendipity. I was researching, and I happened to watch some YouTube videos on storytelling. And one of them, I Googled or searched. I didn't Google. I did a YouTube search on storytelling in art journaling. And you know, there are some videos out there. And I was watching one of them, and she mentioned national, this was like, video was like 4 years ago, and she mentioned National Storytelling Week, and I'm going, you mean that's a thing? I didn't even know it was a thing. Let's see, let's just use this paper, and we'll just give them a couple sheets here. Will it fit in there? Yeah, just about right, isn't it? So let's fold some sheets here. Make a little note journal for him to write it down when he gets an idea. And then I watched some videos on what makes a good story. That's very interesting. And I listened to some of the professionals, I guess you could call them professional, experienced storytellers tell some stories. That's what I did this afternoon. Beck said, I stitched Tunisian squares together. Yeah, you're stitching Tunisian squares together. Are you going to make a poncho or a cardigan or an Afghan? I'm not sure what I'm going to do with mine. I might just leave them in the box. I need to document them though, and I'm hoping I can identify them. I think some of them I can, and others that I have to tell you, my favorite Tunisian stitch so far has been that knit stitch, the Tunisian knit stitch. Meaning that a good story has a problem or sort of a conflict that needs a resolution. Yeah. Like solving a mystery or a whodunit type thing, or even a story that kind of documents a journey or something. It's not really a conflict, but I'm thinking about a story that tells an experience that you had. I think I'll just staple this. I just want it to be sort of simple. I don't want it to be long and involved here. Hi, Renee. Renee, I think your official yes paste came in because I found your note in it. And at the bottom, after I was trying to figure out who sent that to me, and I didn't see the note at the bottom, and I'm not going to go through. We'll talk about a conflict. I tried to chat with Amazon Help, and that was a disaster. Let me tell you that I'm not even going to go into it. I don't want to get too negative, but yeah, it didn't turn out the best. But the link on the little gift certificate that says send this person a thank you, the link wasn't even live. And I was trying to figure out who sent this to me because I already received a 16-ounce one. Did you send me the 16-ounce one too? Let's see, I think I need to bind this now because it's got those staples in it. Let's put a little, we're done with this. I'm going to practice putting my things away after I use them. It just, yeah, I leave them out and then I lose them. And you sent both of them? Oh, Renee. My goodness sakes. I'll never run out of, I'll never run out. That's for sure. Thank you so much. Wow, you sent both of those. Wow. Well, the smaller one came first. Now, are you saying both of the yes pastes you sent? Or and you sent me the art glitter glue too. My goodness sakes. Did Sherry pop in? Did I miss Sherry? I see Angie and Joyce. I don't see Joyce. Let me refresh. Hold on. Hi, Joyce. Where are you? I see Becky, Mina. Oh, there she is, way up here. Hi, Joyce. And Sherry Van. There's Sherry. Welcome. And Mitzi's here, and Mina's here, and Becky's working on her Tunisian. She's stitching together her Tunisian squares. I'm still working on my Christmas Afghan. I was going to work on it this afternoon, but I had to take some, I researched some of this, and then I had to take some time. I had so much stuff behind me that I had to take some time and put some of it away. It's not totally put away, but let me fix this better. There we go. It is what it is. What it is, what it is. Let's see. I want to put I thought I saw, diary of events. I'm just going to put diary. I thought I saw one that said notes, so. Within my heart, the big moon, nothing beyond, my grateful heart, according to value. Well, I guess I'll go with diary because I don't want to go and do a whole bunch of looking through all of these. I'll take diary and put it on here. Except I'm going to get a little dab of glue. let's use the Fine Art glitter glue. You sent 2 art glitter glues and 2 Yes paste, 1 small and 1 large. Oh my goodness, Renee. That is so generous. Thank you. I will not run out. Thank you so much. And Laura Vasquez gifted me the art glitter glue and the little one here and the big one that goes with it. So this just says diary. Now what I'm going to do, Angie, close your eyes. Wait a minute. What did I do with that pen? I take these things off and I didn't. Here, let me put this pen away before I lose it. And what I want to do is make a little slit. Where is it? It's going to have to be a big slit in his pocket because it's going to fit in here. And when he gets ready, he's going to reach in his pocket and pull out his diary and make notes. Maybe I'll make it over here. Is there enough room? It'll be upside down, but oh, I guess it could go in that way. Because he's got that banner there. Don't look. I'm going to cut. I need a mat or something to cut on. Like this. Just get it out temporarily here. Oh, where's my diary? Oops. We could tuck it this way. So we're just going to cut. Yes, we're going to cut a slit here. So he can reach into his pocket underneath of his coat and pull out his diary and make notes that says, write it down. Write it down. It's going to have to be bigger than this. That should be big enough. We could just leave it like that. And what I want to do is make a little piece on the back here. Just trace his shoulder kind of here. These Bobble-head dolls are fun to do. I'm going to make one for every month. And if you're curious, if you had an envelope coming to you, it's been mailed. I mailed all my mail art, all the January postcards and all the envelopes. Angie says, you didn't tell me she was cutting. I said, Angie, close your eyes. I'll put the knife away. You weren't listening. I said, Angie, if you're here, did I say close your eyes? I think I did. So we want to put this in here so that that little book won't fall out. And we're not going to glue it in there. Let's just take the book out temporarily. And it's a kind of a tight fit, but that's a good thing. And I'm just going to put a little glue along the edge here, if I can get it out. I put that needle up in here. What happened to it? Here it is. So Bobble-head Bob is a storyteller. You was doing something? What were you doing? Were you eating or sewing? Or sleeping? Were you napping, Angie? Were you napping? I wanted to take an Angie nap. I did kind of this morning. I fall asleep after my morning streams pretty easy. How far down does this go? Goes way down into here. I fall asleep pretty easy after my morning streams. And then on this one, I'm going to put it right in here. And we're just going to slip this on here. And we'll let that set and dry. Whoops. Pick it up. And the idea is it'll fit in here. And I'll show you after it. But now, let's put these belt buckles on. I want to glue these on better. They're just stuck on there with their tape. I can pull them up. She's unbuckling my belt. Watch it, Meri. I'm fixing the buckle, bud. All right. This is an adult show, you know that. All right. Goes like that. And these little pieces of bling are really hard for me to handle. And the glue dries. The glue dries clear, which is a good thing. Push it over right there. Push that one over. Now we got this one to deal with. Come on, tip over. I got such big clunky hands. There. He's got a buckle. Now I want to give him some cuff links. So I'll need 2 for cuff links. Cuff link here and a cuff link over here. And actually I have one on the wrong side, but that's okay. It's just a paper doll. Bob the storyteller. Extraordinaire storyteller. Give him some cuff links here. Did I get that in right? No. Flip it over. It doesn't want to land on the, it doesn't want to land on its feet. It wants to land on its head. Get in there. There. Glue will dry clear around it. Okay, so he's got his cuff links on. He's got his notes, which I'm going to put in there as soon as that glue dries a little bit more. Now I want a couple little pencils. And I wanted to make them out of yellow, but I don't know if I have any yellow. Let me look in the book. I don't keep much yellow around. Let me see what I have. What's this? It's yellow. It's an envelope. I need an old envelope. Let me see if I have one that's been stamped on here. One that's been sent to me. This is one Arlene sent to me, I think. Just like make a tear here. I'll make a couple pencils out of that. Either Arlene or Rosemary or somebody. So are you thinking what you want to ask Bob? The bobblehead? He's gonna answer questions. He's gonna come visit us at the Meri Atelier. Let's see, he doesn't need a big pencil. I'm gonna put, well, it would be big to him. I want to put a pencil behind his ear here. Might have to shave that down just a little. He always keeps his pencil sharpened in case he gets an idea. And let's put some lead on it. Ooh, I left this pen open. I left it uncovered. Ah, can't see for the shadow. I want to put some lead on that. And an eraser. Bob needs an eraser. There. That looks like a pencil. Where's the cap to this? Where the cap? There it is. Let's put that away. Where's the pencil now? Oh, we're going to put that behind his ear. Kind of like that. Maybe it should go the other way though. Kind of like this. It's kind of long, but he doesn't mind. He says, I got a lot to say. Oh, Bob. Put it that way. Doesn't look right. It needs to go. Stop bubbling your head. Hold your head still. All right, figure out how this pencil's going to go. Maybe that way. There, that's better, I think. Put a little dot of glue under it. Now, I was going to make him a pocket full of pencils, but I think that that's going to be as far as I go. Let's put this pen back in here before I lose it. Bob, the storyteller. Bob, he came to the Fibdiggity convention. Let's see if I can put this in here now. It's right in here. I need my palette knife. Let's get this off my desk. Scraps. Scraps, and more scraps. I'm going to throw those away. Throw all of these away. Get them off my desk. And this says the storyteller. I think I'm going to put that right up in where? Could use it as a belt. The storyteller. I'm tempted to put it in here. Let's see what this says. I think I'm going to put it right in here. Because she's talking about, this is Joanna Gaines talking about when she was a little girl. But I like this. We all have a story to tell. This book happens to be mine. She's talking about the book she wrote. Every chapter a window into who I am, the journey that I'm on, and the season I'm in right now. And then down here it says the chapters of your own life will be different. Maybe you won't always relate, or maybe it will feel like you're looking in a mirror. Whatever we have in common, whatever we have different, lies between us. I only hope my story can help shine a light on the beauty of yours, that my soul work will stir something of yours. And by the time you get to the end of my story, you're also holding beautiful beginnings of your own. It's a story only you can tell, and I hope that you will. And I got a hair on there. So I'm going to and as I was listening to those videos this afternoon about storytelling, I was reading the comments below, and one of the comments really struck me and said, maybe we should not be so much a storyteller, some of us, as to be a story listener. A lot of people like to just listen to stories that people tell. Let's put this back on him. And he's got a pointer here, and that's my little bobby pin embellishment with a heart. He's got a heart. Now, just when I think I get rid of all those scraps, more show up. And I don't know what I did with my palette knife. Did I put it in the water? No. Well, I'm done with this. Let's put it away. It may have fallen on the floor here. It did. I want to give him his notebook, and then we'll move on. This notebook goes right in. Oh, and I messed up his belt. Sorry, bud. I didn't realize it wasn't dry yet. See if I can't get that notebook in there. Get that sign out of the way. Does I have to come down a little more? Oops. Don't rip my jacket, he says. It cost me hundreds of dollars. Okay, there. There. That's good. I don't care if you're there. So let me hold him up a little so you can see him better. Here he is. He's got a pencil behind his ear there. Oh, pencil behind his ear. He's got a bobble-head, and it will bobble. And this is what he's pointing to when he gives his lecture. And I might just glue that on. I don't know. It keeps coming. It doesn't want to stay there. And he's got a little name tag that says Fibdigity Art Illustrators Convention. And he is the storyteller. The storyteller. He's going to give a story at the Art Illustrators. And down here he's got a journal, a day book, and journals and ledgers. And then he's got his red boots on. So he's going to go in my journal here. I got some happy mail from Arlene that I put in here this morning. And I think I'm going to put him, I put my wolf eyes in. I think I'm going to put my clusters there. I think I'm going to put my storyteller over here. Now I'm wondering if I can... I'm wondering if I can do this with this bobby pin somehow. But I'll probably want to pull him out, so I don't know. Another bobby pin? For now, I might figure out another way to put him in there. We're going to put him in the February journal. Let's just put him in like that. All right. So we'll leave that out. Just like this, and pull it over there. Now we're going to do a list. I can grab my papers here. We're going to do a list. And what I want from you guys is, let's ask the storytellers questions. So if you could meet, this is January 30th to February 6th, 2023. In real life is National Storytellers Week. And I didn't know that when I started this. I found it out just by researching things that make a good story. National Storytelling Week. Storytellers Week. Storytelling or storytellers. I'm going to put telling week. I might have to change that. And so what we're going to ask is, what questions would you ask Bobble-head Bob? Bobble-head Bob. Bobble-head Bob, storyteller extraordinaire. Storyteller extraordinaire. Extraordinaire. Rdinarre. I think I've spelled that wrong. Extraordinaire. What questions would you ask him if you could meet him in real life? Let's look at chat here. Hi, Artie Dar. Let's see. Let me go up. Artie Day says, hi, Meri. I love your art dolls. Well, this one has been really fun to make. This guy, he's a Bobble-head doll. His little sign is getting in the way here, but he's a Bobble-head. I'm going to make a Bobble-head doll every month. And I'll probably end up making 2 desk journals because January is pretty thick and February is getting thick. And it's only the 3rd. Becky said she'll be back in a bit. She's going to get ready for bed. Hi, Sharon Lombard. Welcome. Renee topped in. Pink Girlie's here. Let me go up to the top, up to where I left off. Angie says, okay, I have a question. Do you do gold flakes like you do wax? Did Keisha come in? I see Keisha's. Angie says, Keisha. Who's having open heart surgery? Keisha is having a open heart surgery? Angie, did I hear that? Oh, she did. You didn't tell me she was cutting. Oh, wait, no, wait. I was putting things in the freezer bag to get ready to mail to Keisha. Oh, who had open heart surgery? Wait, I'm lost. All right. Renee says, hello, Angie, Melody, and Joni. Hi, Red Reagan. Hi, Joni. Hi, Joni, not so fast. Welcome, welcome. Who is having open heart surgery? Oh, I think she said I was doing open heart surgery on Bob. You scared me, Angie. You scared me. And then I saw Keisha down here below, but she said I was putting things in a freezer bag to get ready to mail to Keisha. And then she said, Keisha. And I'm going, did Keisha have open heart surgery? And I think she was talking about open heart surgery when I cut his slot in his jacket to put his notes in. Hi, Linda Rans. Welcome, welcome. Do any of you know the answer to my question about the gold flakes? I have a question. Do you do gold flakes like you do wax? I'm not sure what you mean with gold flakes. Are you talking about gilding? Like I gilded this rabbit. Are you talking about gilding? Or are you talking about just sprinkling gold flakes on your page? This, I used some tacky glue. I think I used Aileen's tacky glue, but I can't remember. I got 2 or 3 different tacky glues and used, I think I wound up using Aileen's tacky glue on this. And yeah, I had to let it set quite a long time for it. This is a gilded rabbit. But if I were doing gold flakes on my page, I would probably just put some glue on there and you know, let the glue catch on to it. Linda says hello. Leah says hello. Hi, Leah. Good morning. Good morning, Leah. Good evening, Leah. Lori Pink Girly here. I thought Bob was Bob Ross. No, I didn't do a Bob Ross bobblehead, but don't tempt me. I think next month I'm toying with doing a leprechaun one for March, but that's a month away. Lori said, I'm not sure what you were asking, Angie. Lori, it's about wax. Lori said, I saw it not understanding your question. I think she was asking, I think gold flakes need to go on a gluey surface. Yeah, I think so. Although wax might hold it, but it would also might dull it a little. I would tend to use something like a medium. Do you melt gold flakes like you do wax? No, they don't melt. you can get not the flakes, but you can get like Pearl X and Jacquard medium, and you can Jacquard powder, and you can mix that with medium, but it's not really flakes. I don't think you melt gold flakes. I think you might be seeing the heat gun when they dry the medium, that they don't melt. Sharon says, I received the napkins today. Thank you. She's talking to Lori. Pink girly. Brenda. Hi, Brenda. Welcome, Brenda. Mina says, like gold leaf? That's a question mark. Leah said, hi, Pink girly, Red Wagon, Angie, Mina, Sharon, and anyone else I didn't see? Lori says, oh, no, Angie, I think you could mix them in with most glues and glue them down. Yeah, wax would probably hold them, but I would tend to do more of an encaustic wax. If I wouldn't just, get a candle wax or something like that. I think your medium and your glue would be the best thing. I'm just reading chat here. Dex says, I'll be back in a bit. Brenda says, Red Wagon says, hi, hello, Brenda. I'm sorry if I missed you before. Artie Dars came in, says, hi, you Meri, and wow, I love your paper dolls. Thank you, Arte. And they're all saying hello to her. Artie Dars says, be right back. Anybody hot coffee or cocoa with marshmallows? Ooh, or whipped cream? That sounds good on a cold Friday night, doesn't it? I can't drink coffee this late at night. I do have some tea that I warmed over. I shouldn't even be drinking that. It's peppermint tea. Angie says, I don't know about you all, but I like learning things from you. Yes, Angie, we learn from each other, don't we? I learn a lot. Like, use parchment paper, Meri. Dee Dee comes in and teaches me things. Renee says, I'm a better story listener than a storyteller, unless I'm reading a book out loud. Reading to children is one of my favorite things to do. Now, there we go. And Lori, Pink Girly, says, I love to read out loud. So, Renee made a good point. She's a better story listener than a storyteller. So, one of the questions that I would ask as art journalers, and I would ask this to any storyteller, and I might even, Google it and see what I kind of got into a little of it this afternoon while I was Googling, but I would ask storyteller Bob, how can art journalers tell a good story? How can art journalers tell a good story, and obviously in their journal? Now, you aren't going to get the same type of thing in a journal where you're doing an art journal, because you're just working on a page. Unless you do a whole book, you aren't going to get a 300-page story on an art journal page, although you probably could. But if you use those, as I was listening to, and Mina made a point here that a good story starts with kind of a conflict or a mystery. You got to grab somebody's attention right off. So as an art journaler, when I'm doing visual storytelling, how can I grab your attention right off? Make a mess and find my way out of it. There's one way. Let's say Bob's going to answer that. This is the question that I'm asking him. And Bob says, start out by making, or just, we could say start by making a mess. And then, especially if you're doing a video while somebody's watching and online. And then, so the suspense, the mystery part or the conflict part is the mess. And they get people's curiosity up, like, how are you going to get out of this one? How are you going to resolve it? And the same thing could be making a mistake. I'm going to put an unintentional mistake. That sometimes makes a good story. An unintentional mistake. And I do that a lot. You guys know that. And then you get the interest of the people that are reading it, or in my case, you out there in the in the audience starts giving me suggestions. So you get that audience participation. Now, if you're just working PARTIC participation, ICPATION, I misspelled that. Participation. I can if I'm alone. I know what I mean. Audience takes part in the story. So, and that kind of helps by, they'll give suggestions of what to do. They give suggestions, or they'll give ideas. So if you're an art journaler and you say, well, I can't tell a good story, how do I start? Well, one way is to just make a mess right at the and you could even do a mess, an unintentional mistake, a mess, a scribble, a doodle, and then let it grow. And in the case of Bobble-head Bob here, this is a perfect example of a story, because when I started my stream this morning, I had no intention of doing a paper doll. And then when I decided I wanted to do one midstream, I looked through all my Tim Holtz photographs, and I wound up choosing this guy just because I thought his head was the right size for a bobblehead for my journal. And then I started putting him together. I saw he had a black coat, so I finished his suit. And while I was doing that, I noticed he had a ribbon on and in the photograph, he's got a ribbon on his suit coat that says delegate. And that's the only thing I could read, that I could make out. There might be some other words on there. I can't quite make them out. But it says delegate. And I'm going, well, what's he a delegate to? So you're getting into that questions, things like who, what, when, where, why, and how of a story. And Dee Dee will touch on that when she's talking about mind mapping. She'll take a photograph. And I love photographs. We'll just take this ship here, or boat. It's a shipyard. There's some boats in there. And this happens to say herring seining boats. So it looks like they're fishing boats. Prince Rupert, British Columbia. So we know where and we know what, but we don't know who. And, who took this photograph? Why was it so important? Why? There's a why question. Why was it so important for this person to take a photograph of these herring, Herring, which are fish, seine, Seining, with the nets, boats? Why was it so important for that person to take a picture of those boats? And the day looks like it's not even a bright sunny day. It looks kind of foggy out. And here's a what? What is that? Another boat down there? And look, there's some boats in the background here. So we know that it's Prince Rupert, British Columbia. So what was this person doing in British Columbia? Were they a tourist? Or maybe they lived there and their father or brother, or maybe they're thinking about buying a boat and getting into the fishing business. You know, there's a whole story that you could make just by looking at a photograph. You guys can't see this too well. It's not the greatest photograph. I just grabbed it from over here. I don't know if I have another one. Here's a picture of a lady out. Looks like she's in her garden, her flower garden. It looks like she's in her backyard. So, are those flowers? What it looks like they're roses, but they may not be. They may be peonies. No, I think they're roses. And you could tell a whole story off of that lady. This reminds me of a story my mother used to tell when we were kids. Both my mother and dad were good storytellers, and we didn't have TV. And I can remember begging Mom, tell us another story, Mom. We love to hear stories about her growing up. And she told a story about a neighborhood lady who was always working in her backyard and always growing flowers. She said, Mrs. So-and-so is out in the backyard again, growing flowers. This kind of reminded me of that. So, what other questions could we ask Bob? I'm more interested in learning. Let's see. Let's look at chat here. I wanted to touch again on Renee said I'm a better story listener than a storyteller. Isn't that cool how when we listen to somebody telling a story, we are kind of actively participating just by listening. And we get these pictures in our mind because we're not watching a movie. We're listening to somebody's words and listening to what they're saying. And as you listen to whatever they're talking about, let's just say they're talking about going boating or in a fishing boat or a lady in the backyard. We don't have unless they have a picture that they're talking about, but generally we see these pictures in our mind. And then she says, unless I'm reading a book out loud, reading to children is one of my favorite things to do. And children just love to listen to stories. You know that. There's always, read me a story, Mom, and the bedtime stories. Lori, it's very satisfying. Angie says, I like talking to myself and answer that way. I'm never wrong. Oh, dear, Angie. Sharon is giggling. They're saying hello to Sharon. Good one, Brenda. That's what Brenda said. Angie, I talk to myself because sometimes I need expert advice. Riri says, good evening. Hi, Riri. Hi, Tommy Joe. Brenda said, I stole it from a poster with a list of things old people do. Bob, how did you get so flexible and bendy? Okay, we're going to, Pink Girlie wants to know, Bob, how did you get, well, this is a good question. Lori has a sense of humor. So, flexible and bendy. Now, he could tell a story off of that. And bendy. What do you think? Did he need surgery? And he lost his head one day. He said, I lost my head one day, but they rescued me fast and took me to the, let's just take him out of here. Took him to the doctor and they were able to put my head back on, but they had to give me an artificial neck. And these doctors were so good, so advanced. He said, and let's just pretend that it's 2023. You know, he's here in 2023, and he said, isn't it a miracle what medicine can do these days? How they can take a neck and put it on me. He says, yeah, it's a little bendy and my head shakes a lot, but that's when I want to say no or yes, or when I want to be funny. He said, but I can still function. He said, I haven't lost my head entirely. But you could make kind of a funny story out of him losing his head. You know, there's a lot of connotation to losing your mind. You know, I lost my mind one day when I was trying to explain storytelling to a group of junior high school kids. And these wonderful doctors grabbed it and put it back on for me. You know, just a funny story. But there's conflict there. He lost his head. He lost his mind. He lost his head. And then there's the resolution of, well, there's the mystery of, and then there's even the audience participation is what made you lose your mind? You know, why did you lose your mind over junior high school kids? You know, maybe they were just acting up and he wasn't getting his point across, and there's the conflict there. And you could go into maybe one particular young boy was throwing spitballs at him or something, and you know, you could make he could make up a whole story. But we're going to say, Lori wanted to know, how did you get so flexible and bending? And he said, it's just my head that's bendy. The rest of me is pretty stiff. Oh, my arm here, his arm bends. Let's take this off. His arm will bend. That's the only other movable part to him. He says, I have to have a bendy arm because I need to make my point here about the storytelling. And he says, I have to get to my diary if I have to write something down. And I think the ending point is of a story is to give them a takeaway, to end the story. Well, some stories don't end well, you know, like take Little Red Riding Hood. I read that just recently when Janet Young was doing her nursery rhyme zines, and I was going to participate, but I had to go back and read some fairy tales for our nursery rhymes. And I landed on Little Red Riding Hood, and I read it. And do you know that wolf, that big bad wolf, gobbled up Granny, and he gobbled up Little Red Riding Hood? That story did not end well at all. And we tolerated it, kids. Little Red Riding Hood was a much loved story, a fairy tale, and it had a tragic ending. So, but the moral of it is, the takeaway of it is don't trust all those wolves out there. There are wolves out there in our life who do not mean us well. They dress up like to look like your lovable granny, and they're not so lovable. They'll gobble you down. So don't trust all wolves. So kind of talking about the 3 points of a good story was, Mina mentioned it has to have a conflict, audience participation, or a resolution, how they work through it and resolve it, and then a takeaway. So Bob is giving us instruction of a good story right now. This is from his words. So Bob is said, the answer that Bob gives him was, he lost his mind / head trying to explain storytelling to junior high school kids. And I just use junior high school kids because they're a pretty rowdy group. Explain storytelling to JH kids. And then the doctors, the wonderful doctors, you know, and that's a good point, that, you know, our medical community, the medical doctors were so advanced, they could give me a new neck. They could, I'm just jotting this down. This is kind of, you know, an editor would tear this apart, but we don't care about editors tonight. We're just having fun. Could give me a new neck. and it was bendy. It was bendy. So that answered that question. Lori, what else? What was the other question? Where are you from? Angie wants to know, where are you from? And that was a good question too. I kind of wondered that myself. Where is Bobble-head Bob from? That's a good question, Angie. Where do you think he's from? Where should we make him from? He's not from Fidiggity. He's in town for the convention. He's obviously a Caucasian. So Fidiggity is a fictional town. It really isn't in any state. It's in the state of where you are. It's a state of mind. It's lives on the internet. But what do you think? Should we give him a fictional town that he's from? No, we're going to leave this one open until we see what you guys say. Who or what gives you inspiration for your stories? Who or what gives you inspiration for your stories? And that's another good question. And I kind of touched on that, on how to get started. Looking at a photo, a scribble, an unintentional mistake, make a mess, and go from there. But sometimes, let's just say Bob is talking here. Sometimes, like I was listening to a video this afternoon of a storyteller, and he's told this story of when he was a young boy, and how his parents were gardeners, and they grew tomatoes and zucchini and carrots and peas and squash and the whole bit, you know, and they were good gardeners, but he didn't like the carrots and peas. Well, and he told the story real good, but in the long run, in the story, he and his brother, he was 8 years old. I don't know how old his brother was, but they were fighting underneath the table, and the table was an old table, and one of them kicked the table leg and it broke. And they were afraid that they were going to get trouble with their mother. So he ran in and told his mother what his little brother did with breaking the leg. And his mother surprised him by saying, well, it finally happened, you know, good, I'm glad it happened. So now she could get a new table. And he described this new table that they got. Now, see, he's drawing that story from his childhood. So you could say you can get it from your personal life experiences. He's telling a story when he was young, personal life experiences. And do you want to know about the new table? The new table was one of those Formica tables with the steel legs. And I think my mom had one of those. But anyway, he found out that those steel bars were hollow inside, and they went under the table where he sat. And he started throwing his peas and carrots when his mother wasn't looking down those hollow legs, steel legs. And that's how he ate all his peas and carrots. And obviously he never got discovered until one day they had to move. And his uncle suggested that they could put the table in the truck if they turned it upside down. And he was panicking. He's going, all those peas and carrots are going to fall out. And sure enough, they did. And his mother found out, and she said, gave him a scolding of, we don't waste food. And that was kind of the punchline of the whole story. It's, we don't waste food. I can just hear his mother saying that. And see my reaction as me listening to that? I giggled at that story. Not so much as I didn't really identify with him, but I identified with his antics, his young boy mischief, like Dennis the Menace type stuff. It makes you giggle. It makes you giggle. And eventually his mother took all the peas and gathered them up and put them in a jar and put them on the kitchen counter. And said, he kept threatening that she was going to cook those peas and carrots. And he called them antique by this time. They'd been in there a couple years, and they were all dried and yucky and everything. But she kept those in a jar. Well, then he got to talking about what, Sunday school or Bible school or something, where they had an arts and craft class. And the teacher was going to make them do mosaics out of kitchen food, like macaronis and corn, corn, not corn cobs, but the corn shells, the corn kernels. Well, they're dry, not the soft ones, but the dry ones. And he grabbed those peas and carrots, and they all used in the art. He said every piece in that room had peas and carrots on it. And then his parents came to see the art show. They hung it up, and the parents were invited to see it. And his parents recognized all the peas and carrots, and of course he got a reaction out of his audience that were listening. So he drew from his personal life. You could draw a story from a photograph. I lost my chat here. And I'm talking from Bob, and I'm just kind of talking from what I've read. There's a lot of other, from a photograph, maybe inspired by, maybe you got inspired by, well, I'm telling the story about Bobble-head Bob right now. I got inspired by a paper doll. I created this character. And so, I have to tell all about him. And I don't know if we got any conflict in there yet, but we could. Maybe we could create some conflict, like he's at the illustrators convention and somebody could accuse him of plagiarism. And maybe he's telling a story and somebody says, I've heard that story before, and could accuse him of plagiarism. Or maybe he plagiarized some art or something. He's not an artist, he's a storyteller, which is a different form of art, but I would think more plagiarism. So you could create some conflict there. And he could say, oh no, that's my story. I grew up with that. And no, I heard that exactly, and he could get into that type of conflict. So inspiration from objects. Let's just put objects. Like you could go to, I said a paper doll here because that's what I'm doing tonight, is telling the story of, or trying to tell the story. We're kind of introducing him here. It really isn't a story. I'm introducing him. Paper dolls, that's my inspiration. But say you went to a flea market and you saw an old suitcase and it was locked, and you brought it home, and what was in it? What was in the suitcase? And maybe you found love letters. Maybe you found an old photo from World War II or something, an old photo. And here's another thing, it's talking about letters. Remember, not so long ago, sometime last year, I got at the auction those letters of Norman, can't remember his last name, Allie Kay will remember it. All those letters from Norman. Was it Norman? I'd have to go look. I can't even pull it off the tip of my tongue. But reading through all of those letters, most of them were from his wife, and I'm saying at the time, but it made me think he had a letter where he was in the medical corps in Vietnam, and he got promoted. He's got his promotion letter. He's got his certificate in that pack of letters, and it was a photo of him. And Allie Kay and another person, I can't pull it off the tip of my tongue right now. Got too much in my head. They got interested in doing the genealogy research on him, and we found his sister We think we found his mother and father, you know, and we really haven't found his daughters yet. I think we found his sister's sister's kid's husband or something like that. And I was going to message them and ask if they want those letters back, but I chickened out. But see, even you could find a bundle of letters and you could draw inspiration from, I've just used 3 examples here, objects. But you have to have those 3 elements, kind of a setup of, and we say it's conflict. It might not be conflict. It could be a mystery. It could be, you have to have the setup there that draws your audience in and gets them interested. And you even get them participating. And if they're just reading a book, if they're not listening and actively listening to a storyteller, and you know, he could throw out questions and they could participate that way. But if you're just reading a book and you're reading a story, you kind of participate mentally in your head. You relate to it. Sometimes you participate by, like, watching a video. Like I was saying, I was giggling at that young boy who was kind of a Dennis the Menace. That was me participating in that. I was giggling at it. I wanted to hear the end of it. And then at the end, you have a takeaway, a resolution. And the resolution was he didn't get a spanking. And the punchline was, we don't waste food. It actually ended up on all these art pieces in everybody's houses. So we're going to leave that for the question of who or what do you give inspiration from? There's a lot of, you might even, you might just, I don't want to say friends, because you get into the drawing for somebody's friendship, drawing from their life. You don't really want to do that without them knowing. But you could walk to the mall and maybe see an old man walking with a cane or a walker, and maybe he stopped to pick up some trash that somebody left and take it over to take it over and throw it away properly. And you could base a whole story off of the life of that old man. Who was he? Why is he so fastidious about keeping the mall or the street clean? Or there's a lot of storytelling going on just by observing people. Let's say people watching. People watching is a good term. Watch people watching. All right, I'm going to move on to the next question. Is there another question? What's your favorite color and why? What is Bob's favorite color and why? Well, he's wearing a dark suit, but there's a lot of red on here. Favorite color, we're going to put it's red. Red. Now, why does Bob like red? Why would Bob like red? I'm going to leave that for you guys. Let's see what you guys say. Let's go to another question. I also like the one that says, sometimes I roll my eyes out loud. Brenda. Sometimes I do that too. Angie said, no, Keisha's not having open heart surgery. It sounded like that just reading the chat. If you go back up and look at that chat, the way it falls, she says, somebody says, who's having open heart surgery? And then Angie was talking about Keisha, and she misspelled Keisha, but right under it, she put Keisha on one line. And it looked like she said Keisha was having open heart surgery. But I figured out it wasn't her. It was me cutting into Bob's jacket to hide his diary. See how far I'm behind here. Renee says, oh, Brenda, do you employ the holy eye roll? Bob, do you have a favorite journalist or author? Ooh, that's a good question. Bob, do you have, who do you think would be Bob's favorite author? I have one in my head, but who do you think? You have a favorite journalist? I don't know very many journalists. I know some personal ones that I read the daily paper, or author. I can think of some authors he might like. Who would you think Bob would say? Who's his favorite author? I'm going to wait for you guys. So I need an answer to why Bob likes red and who's his favorite author. Let's number these. 1, 2. We might have to go back and review this. Let's go on to 3. Mina wants to know, Bob. Meri, I know the answer to my question. What was your question? Oh, your question was, let me go back and look. What was your question, Angie? Did I get it? I know about the gold flakes. What did you ask? Did you ask a question to Bob, or are you just talking about the gold flakes? Oh, there's Azure. She asked, Azure Muse asked about the favorite color and why. I missed that, Azure. Welcome. You know, I was thinking about you today. Azure Muse. Welcome, welcome if you're out there. I'm kind of behind because I'm writing stories here, or writing questions to Bob down here. Tommy Joe is here. Azure, it sure is good to see you. Nashwa's here. Hi, Nashwa. I love how he turned out, Leah says. Yeah, Bob turned out pretty good, didn't he? He's a bobblehead. He's a bobblehead. Do you like shaking your head? No. Yes. This is sometimes. Do you ever get a headache? I can see a junior high school kid asking him, do you ever get a headache? Nashua says, hello, Renee. I hope you're having a good time. Bob, who is your yellow? Who is your yellow? Oh, no, wait. Let's see. Let's go up one. I missed a question. Let me go. I got sidetracked here when I saw Azure, and I was going back to find out what Angie's question was. Bob, do you prefer red suede shoes over blue suede shoes? Oh. Well, what do you think? He's wearing the red ones. I think, let's see. Do you prefer... Now, do you think he put these on purposely when he came to the Meri Atelier to arouse curiosity? And look at the bling on his pants. When I was doing this today, I said, he's beginning to look like Liberace. Do you prefer red suede shoes to blue suede? So Bob's going to answer that for you. Shoes. And his answer is, I wore these red suede shoes. I wore them here. I wear the red suede shoes. Suede, S-U-E-D-E, red suede shoes. When I want to get people's attention. I prefer the blue suede shoes When I'm out on the town with my lady. Who's your lady? You know, you think of Elvis Presley and his blue suede shoes. So we know he's got a lady because he likes to wear his blue suede shoes when he's out on the town with his lady. So that's another story. Where do you go out on the town? Who's your lady? What is she like? All those questions. That's his answer. Hey, Bob, who is your yellow? I don't know what that means, Renee. Who is your yellow? Who is your yellow? You're going to have to educate me on this one. I'm afraid to ask. Bob doesn't know. Leah says Micah. Micah. Nashua says, hello, Renee. I hope you're having a good time. Renee says, thank you, Nashua. I am. Joni says, Bob, I would like to know if you ever stopped to smell the roses. Bob, do you ever stop to smell the roses? You know what Bob says? Well, I'll tell you here in a minute. Bob says, did you happen to notice my boutonniere? Did you happen to notice his boutonniere? It's not a rose, it's a flower. But that's how he answered it. I don't know how to spell boutonniere. B-E-U-T-I-N-E-E-R. Boutonniere. I'm spelling it out, sounding it out. That's how he's being funny. He said, oh, did you happen to notice my boutonniere? And then he'll say, yes. I like to smell the roses all the time. I like to slow down. Slow down. So that's what happens when you smell the roses. You kind of slow down and they smell good. And enjoy the roses. That's good enough. So he answered, yes, I do stop and smell the roses. He said yes. He's in the affirmative. Brenda says, Bob, does your neck hurt? Bob, does your neck hurt? And he's going to answer that one too. And his answer is no. Actually, he says it's quite comfortable. It's my head that gets a little dizzy. It's quite comfortable. Those doctors did a good job. It's my head that gets a little dizzy. Not migraines, just dizzy. He doesn't get migraines, but he gets a little dizzy at times, especially when somebody bops him on the forehead. That gets a little dizzy. That was number 3. We're ready for page 4. I think I'm going to turn this one over and touch the page 4. Brenda says, I got coffee. It's unleaded, so it doesn't keep me up. I'm just up. Artie Dar says, I get Hubs to read to me. He's wonderful. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I think that's cool that your husband reads to you. There's nothing like listening to a story. And like I liked listening to that story about the man who told about the peas and the carrots when he was a young boy. But I will go out. I don't have as much time as I used to, but I used to listen to audiobooks. I used to listen to, you can get them online now. Um, you can listen to free audiobooks online. Excuse me, I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. I'm getting tired. I'm only going for another hour. That's neat, Artie Dar. Painty Girl says, Bob is wearing a scarf. Is wearing a scarf a problem for you? You guys. Bob, you get so curious about his neck. Well, you know, his neck would draw a lot of curiosity, wouldn't it? Bob is wearing a scarf. A problem. Was that a problem for you? And he's going to be very pragmatic. And he's going to say, yes. Yes, it is. And you could say, why? Let's see, why would it be a problem? Well, he could say that too. And he could say, why do you think it would be a problem? Why do you think a scarf would be a problem for Bobble-head here? Would it choke him? Would you have to wrap it around his neck 3 or 4 times? And then would that prevent his head from bobbling? Why do you want to know? Why do you ask? Why do you ask? He wants to know what prompted you to ask that question. Isn't it obvious? You're asking the obvious. And Artie Dar says, an antagonistic hero question, mark. Bob says, choose your favorite color first. Bob says, I'm not sure. Bob says, this isn't a question. Bob says, choose your favorite color first. We're writing that down. Is that an answer to the blue suede shoes? Brenda says, I'm a storyteller. I've been through a lot of stuff that others find interesting, often more interesting to them than me. Now, see, Brenda, I love that you said that. Brenda is identifying as a storyteller, and I think a lot of us unconsciously are storytellers. We just don't think we are. Just in the way that we communicate sometimes, our stories may not be fantastical, thought out well with the plot and the whole takeaway and all the mystery and all that, but our everyday lives are stories. Where were you born? What color do you like? What authors do you like? What is your talent? What do you like to do? Do you like to fish? Do you like to do art? Do you like to paint? What do you dislike? All of these things that make up who we are is a story. And that's interesting to us. That's interesting to your friends. And then there's even the conflict. What makes you angry? Do we have a right to get angry? What makes you sad? What makes you cry? What makes you happy? What inspires you? And I don't think we listen intently enough to people around us. It's hard for me to listen to my brother because my older brother doesn't say much. I have to pry it out of him. And I find kids are that way too. My nephew's that way. You know, I have a kid that comes home from school and says, "How was your day?" "It was okay." And that's the end of it. Well, what did you learn today? Nothing. Oh. Do you have homework? Yeah. So, and I think sometimes, I don't know for sure because I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I think sometimes that could be a defense mechanism. Like, like they're kind of shutting their story off for a while because they're still figuring themselves out. And then you have other kids, you have other, not kids, but other young people who don't shut up. And those are the interesting ones to listen to. When my brother and I, we went to get the storm window yesterday, and I got my driver's license, yay! But we ate out at Burger King. My brother wanted to go to Burger King. It's not my favorite place to eat, but I wasn't going to fight him because he wanted to go, and I was hungry. But it's right across. I was telling him this morning. It was right across from high school, and we went right at about the time school got out, and those kids were just hanging out over at Burger King, a whole group of them, and just to watch them, how they interacted with each other. And some of them were very loud and noisy. Some of them were quiet and, took their phones and went over and sat in a booth. And then there was one that I kind of giggled about because there's this one girl. I wear leggings around home. These kids, I mean, she had leggings on and she didn't need to have leggings on. Every muscle in her derriere showed. But she seemed to be the friendliest. It didn't bother her at all. She was laughing and giggling and, taking part with the other kids. And at one point, one of the young boys, it looked like he grabbed a name tag or a dog leash or something she had. And, here she's in high school and she wrestled him right there in Burger King. She wrestled him and almost took him down, and she got it back. And then she just walked away. I have to tell you, when I was that age, there was no way that I would be too shy to wrestle somebody, a young man, even let alone a girl, in Burger King, just to get my dog tag back. But it was interesting to watch those kids and people watching. People watching can inspire stories. What was that? We knew that they were waiting for rides to come and pick them up after school. We knew that because they kept watching out the window. And eventually all the rides came. And there were a few left when we left, but most of them were gone by the time we were finished. And just looking at those kids, first of all, I told my brother, I said, the meals, I said, those kids could not afford a Burger King meal every day. Some of them bought a drink, but what? My brother bought a double cheeseburger and I had a single one, and the fries and a medium drink. And I think I think it cost us $14 a piece there. And I think he paid for it. My brother paid for it. I think his bill was like $28. And I'm going, boy, how would those kids afford all that food? They didn't come there for the food. And a few of them got drinks, had a Coke or something like that. But I said, well, I hope they eat supper when they go home. I hope they get a good supper. That I couldn't go across the street to a Burger King after a big day of school and not want to eat something. What Bob says, your favorite color is the color you choose first. Bob says, choose your favorite color first. Brenda said she's a storyteller. Oh, that's what got me off on that. people that are good storytellers can verbalize things that, like Barb says, I've been through a lot of stuff. So being through a lot of stuff, she can verbalize that to other people who that find it interesting. I think that's good, great, Brenda, that you're a good storyteller. As you make more BHs, the story grows. Yeah, yeah. As you make more BHs, the story grows. Yeah, the story does grow. As I hope that's not BS. No. Brenda says, Paint Girlie, I thought of that. I bet a scarf would get tangled in his neck. Oh, would it get tangled? That's good, interesting. Would it get tangled? Oh, I bet it could. This little neck, this little, I had to glue this little thing on because it kept slipping off. And I didn't want to slip it off, so I glued it on down here. But it kept slipping in between the little wires. And then it could fall off too. So yeah, he probably have the same, although he does have down here, he's got a necktie on down here. So his necktie might be connected more to his shirt than his neck. I bet a scarf would get tangled in his neck. I think so, Brenda. Hi, Allie K. I'm way back behind you guys. I'm just reading and chatting from what you guys are saying here. Renee says, Brenda, I have a lot of stories to tell, but often they're very difficult for me to tell and difficult for people to hear. So I try not to burden others by telling my life stories. And that's interesting because I'm going to repeat a story. This is not my story, but I'm going to repeat one of the stories that I heard. I was researching videos about storytelling this afternoon. And this guy was talking about the points of a good story, the conflict, the resolution, and the takeaway from it. And he was telling a story. It sounded like he was connected with a church and doing missionary work, like over in Africa, or I'm going to say Africa. It might not have been in Africa. But he said the women would carry these big pots to go get water, to get clean water every day. And he said they'd have to walk several miles with these big, and I'm paraphrasing it, with these big pots. Well, one of the women dropped the pot and broke it, and all the water spilled out. And she ended up, because that happened, she ended up going and hanging herself. And that makes you're going, why? She just dropped a clay pot and spilled the water. But you think of the culture, maybe that clay pot was the only clay pot in her family that held water, and they weren't going to have any more water. Maybe it was the shame. Maybe it was the shame of failing to bring home the water that she went to get. But anyway, she went and hung herself. And obviously her friends were with her. I don't know why they didn't stop her. That's a question. But she went, maybe they just saw her do it or saw her walk away and found her later. I don't know how that happened. But he was telling this story. And it's very hard to hear. You know, you're sitting there almost in shock of why somebody would kill themselves over a broken pot of water. You know, just pick up the pieces and go get another clay pot and fill it with water and take it home. But obviously it traumatized her enough. And then my takeaway, my thought after I heard that was, well, maybe it wasn't only the water. Maybe the water was the tipping point. Maybe that broken pot was just pushed her over the edge. Like, I can't take this anymore. I'm done with it all. And, you know, that might have been. So, but that isn't the end of the story. The mystery part of it, and this is what he said, this isn't the end of the story. The end of the story is the lady was only, 13 years old, 13 or 16. She was a young girl. She was not a lady. And here, you know, she had a whole life to live. and because of he said it was the shame of breaking the pot, is what he said. But in my mind, I think there may have been something else going on in her life, but I don't know that. But he told that story, and he said, here, when you first hear that story, you think of a lady going to get water, you think of her being 60 years old, being an older lady caring for her family. And here it was a 13 or 16, I can't remember the exact age. So there are some stories that are very, very hard to hear. And you probably hear a lot of those, even here in the United States. It doesn't have to just be, third world countries. There are a lot of stories that are hard to hear here. Um, I'll tell it. It's not a story. I'll tell you about when I went to the university. It was probably about my sophomore, maybe my junior year. Um, I think that they were like, you think the university, all these kids coming from all the towns in the states going to this big school, and there was a car accident, and it killed one lady, and they built a fountain, and it's probably there in front of the student union. Um, it I think the fountain's probably still there. I haven't looked lately, but it's called the Broyhill Fountain, and it's their parents had a lot of money, so they could take that money and donate it to the university in the name of to honor the life of the young girl that got killed. The other girl was instantly paralyzed, and she had a stroke, and she was just literally, her life was just ruined. They hit It was a road construct. They weren't drunk or anything. They hit a road construction vehicle that probably didn't have a sign around it or something. I don't know all the ways, but I know it wasn't like they went out and partied and got drunk. It was a legitimate accident. Well, that was sad. But a couple years after that, I worked at a it was a nursing home, but it was a care home. They accepted people who had strokes and who were coming out of comas, and they weren't just old people, they were young people. And the girl that did not get killed, who was paralyzed, she was a patient at that home. And I'm not going to name her name anything, but um, her parents, it would be so sad to see her parents would come and visit her. They loved her so much. And there's a sad story to that. It's a hard story to hear. I think her parents took her home one weekend, and I think she eventually passed away at home. And see, that's something that I did not directly live it. I lived around it. And I knew of the story behind that Broyhill Fountain. And I knew of the girl. And I even helped. I wasn't the main caregiver, but as being a part of the team that worked at that care home, I helped take care of her. And here's another sad story of my school days. I withdrew from the university and went to a business college. And I did quite well there, to tell you the truth. It was the smartest thing I did, was withdrawing from the university. But I went to, and I got I was going for a BFA, but I wanted to be a legal assistant because that was the newest thing back then. And but I had to take accounting. And my accounting teacher, one day, he was the nicest guy. He always had this big broad smile on his face. Just the sweetest guy you would ever want to meet. He was really a good teacher. But one day he was writing up at the blackboard, and my friend and I were sitting in the front seat and on the front desks, and we noticed that he seemed to slow down in his writing, and we knew something was wrong. And he sat down in his chair, and he dismissed class. And I found out later, he dismissed class, and I imagine another teacher came in. I think my friend might have alerted them at the office that something wasn't quite right. I wasn't sure, but I think she kind of took care of that. And anyway, he ended up having a stroke right in front of us in a accounting class. Now, how sad is that? To see your teacher have a stroke, and and he eventually went to that care home, and he recognized me. I'd take him his meals, and and made sure he had everything he needed, and just everything that a nurse aide would do, I did. And he recognized me. I asked him one day if he knew who I was, and he nodded his head yes. He knew I was one of his students. It's kind of interesting. And he eventually passed away. I mean, I think he lived a decent life after that, but eventually everybody passes away. And then there's another, when I was going to that same school, she was, I forget what she taught, but she was my teacher. And I forget if it was just a general business course. I think it was just a general business course at that same business school. And I remember she took some time off, and her husband took her to Greece. She always wanted to go to Greece. And she came back, and she was telling us all about Greece and everything. And she didn't teach the next semester. And we found out eventually that she had passed away. Just kind of shocks you. And that's probably why her husband, they probably knew that she had some form of cancer or some illness that she was in stage 4 of. But she got to go to Greece. So there's a lot of tragic stories, but you know what? We identify with those. Some stories are hard to hear, but it's the way that we listen to it and we go, we know, we understand. A lot of us, I don't go through a lot of, I read a lot of things that you go through, and I just shake my head. I just go, man, how do you cope? And that's where I start to pray for you. But a lot of things I can't identify with, but a lot of things I can. Sometimes when you tell something you're going through, I know exactly what you're going through. And that's when we hear those stories, when we communicate them to one another. And you don't have to take it personally. You can't, I mean, we tell each other personal things, but you can tell a story like I could tell a story about Bobble-head Bob here, and he may not be I could make him my accounting teacher and say, tell the story of Bobble-head Bob and how he was teaching accounting one day and he had a stroke in front of the class, or he was telling about storytelling and his neck hurt. He had a stroke and he needed a new neck, something like that. But and you could base it off of your personal experience. Maybe not the neck thing, but maybe, a form of cancer, something like that. So it's a way, when you tell a story, when the people are listening to it, especially if it's tragic, they identify with that. And I think one of those storytellers in the video say we kind of rehearse it. We rehearse our fears. And I'm not sure exactly what he meant with that, but we kind of go through it with them. Kind of an empathy with them. All right, I'm way behind. Allie K is here. Kathy came in. Renee says, my older children complain to me that their dad tells them all kinds of stories from his youth, but I never tell them about my younger self. Well, there are some things that, I can identify with that too. I'm better at telling things now than I used to be. I used to be very, very quiet. I didn't want to share things. But now I guess I'm so old, I don't care. I would rather have my experiences and how I feel about things come out of my own mouth uh, than what somebody thinks I was way back then, who I was, who I am. I would rather have it come out of my own mouth than have somebody determine that for me. So I think I'm a little bit better about telling things, but I was telling you about my older brother. It's hard to get him to talk. And my younger brother, I think would be a better storyteller, but he's not talking to me at the moment. He's off in his own world. Joni says, "Oh yes, I couldn't wait for Boo to get old enough for chapter books. I just love reading to her before bed." Ah, they're talking about reading to kids. Calico Kate Kathy says, "My sisters and I made a book of childhood stories. My sister had it published, so we all have a copy." Ooh, that's cool. That's cool. There's Becky. She says, "Yoga." Becky said, "Yoga was born in an elastic plant, born to a spring family." I'm not sure where that came from, Becky. Mind movie, Becky said. Mind movie, yoga was born in an elastic plant, born to a spring family. I'm way behind. I'm just reading chat. Kathy, that's cool. My sister had 2 children's books published. Ooh, that's cool too, Lori. Joni says, "I lost my mind once. I didn't even miss it." That's what he said. One day I lost my head in class. Those kids got to me in my junior high class. I lost my head, and the doctors were so good that he put it back on, but they had to manufacture a neck for me, and this is what happened. But by golly, it works. My head just kind of bobbles a little. He says, "I don't mind it. Most of the time I can control it. It's only when somebody starts knocking me on the cheek." Kathy says, "What are the titles? Can I order?" They're talking about books they'd published. Joni said, "That's why it's a grim story." Ribbons for Randy by Jacqueline Donat and maybe Jackie, not remembering the second title. Ribbons for Randy. She probably has copies. I've often thought, now this isn't a story, but I've often thought about getting back to having words come out of my own mouth. I've often thought, now this sounds a little grim, but I've often thought about writing my own obituary because I know me. I don't think my family knows me. They know what they think of me, but they really don't know all the things that even that I've been telling you guys about the experiences that I had in accounting class and with my accounting teacher and the Brahill Fountain and all of those. I mean, I've got a whole host of, I've lived a life, just like Brenda says. Now, some people find stories boring. They're not good listeners. They're not good listeners. They find it boring, but they lead a different life too. A lot of people are active. They can't sit still to listen to another person. Bob is from Boise, Becky said. Bob is from Boise. Bob from Boise. Becky said Bob is from Boise. Thank you, Becky. We're going to write that down, Boise. Boise's in Idaho. Right? I just looked it up, a darling plot. Let's see. Let's write that down. Ribbons for Randy. This is from Paint Girly. Ribbons for Randy. I'm going to put Lori. Lori's daughters. Randy is really good. The Randy one is really good. Bob is from a town called Storytelling. Bob is from Boise, Idaho, where he learned to tell stories. Bob, are you married? I knew that question would come up. Bob, are you married? And he has an answer for you, Angie. No, but I wear my blue suede shoes when I go out with my lady. But I wear my blue suede shoes. So he's got a lover. He's got a lady friend. But I wear my blue suede shoes. We'll leave the lover part up to their private life. My blue suede shoes. You guys didn't expect me to say that online, did you? Suede shoes when I go out with my lady. So he's in a relationship. He's in a relationship with his lady. We haven't identified her yet. Norman Harris, Allie K says, yes. Norman Harris, thank you, Allie K. I'm probably way behind you guys. Norman Harris was the person who I found this batch of letters from. I bought them from at Keisha's auction. It's a batch of letters. Interesting in the sense it was what was going on with him while he was in the service. It just covered 1 year. I think it was 68 and 69. And I think he was serving over in Vietnam. He was in the medical corps. But what was so interesting with that batch of letters, he got promoted, I think to major, wasn't it? And it had a letter from one of his old buddies, and it had, I think it had a certificate in there, and it had a picture of him when he was younger. And all the letters were from his wife, and most of what she was telling about while he was over there that year serving in the the Air Force, she was house hunting, and she'd write to him and tell him all about these houses that she was looking for. But I find it so interesting that the letters are all from her to him. There's no letters of him back to her, which makes me think, and now here gets into the story part, why is it so one-sided? Did they get a divorce? Did she pass away? Was this just his things, that got eventually, and that's probably what'll happen to a lot of my stuff. It'll probably fall in some goodwill if it didn't get burned or thrown away. And all of these letters. Norman Harris and Allie K and Charlene, I think, did a lot of genealogy research on Norman Harris for us. Joni says, I like to make up stories about stuff that ends up on the side of the road, especially if it's something strange. Now, see, there's an object. Joni says, should find something on the side of the road. I'm thinking like maybe a recliner or a piece of furniture, or it could be, a box of free stuff. And you're going through that box of free stuff, and that's cool, Joni. Becky said she's off to bed. Good night. Good night, Becky. She's probably snoring by now. Brenda says, I got a hold of some old letters from France. Oh, how interesting. A man wrote to a woman about meeting in a hotel for lunch and later asked her to meet upstairs. Several months later, he was telling her to have an abortion, 1940s. Oh, wow. That's sad. Red makes him look dapper. Yeah, it does, especially his shoes. He wears the red shoes to the convention to garner a little attention. I guess he thinks he's such a common-looking man, he's got to dress up a little. Oh, about the gold flakes. You know the answer about the gold flakes, Angie says. Azure says, you know, Meri, story time is one of my favorites too. Ah, Azure. That's sweet. It's so good to see Azure in here, if she's still out there listening. Azure, it's so good to see you. Brenda says, he seemed so nice at first, but he used her. There are 7 letters he wrote. He didn't want to meet her friends or family. I think he was married. The one asking her to get rid of the baby was the last in the bundle. Wow. Hopefully she didn't do it. See, that's kind of a sad story too, isn't it? But there's a story behind that, isn't it? Oh, there's Teresa Church. Hi, Teresa. What time was that at? 8:54? I'm only a half an hour behind you guys. Azure, red is the color of love and the color of red velvet cake. I hope she kept the baby. The lack of more letters from him makes me think she didn't do as he asked. I agree, Brenda. The poor girl, especially in the 1940s. A lot of the abortions back then were done in secret. Says Leah, I got them to use in junk journals. When I sat down with the French teacher to fill in the gaps, I couldn't read it. And when I couldn't read it, it made me sad and mad. I couldn't use them. I just put them away. Now, Norman's letters did not make me sad or mad, but I had a hard time using them because, you know, I think of this man's life. These were his life. I mean, this was his wife, and this was a year out of his life. Of course, he's probably passed away now. I think we found that he's passed away. It's probably why we have him. And it's kind of hard to take them, and use them in your art, knowing that. I still have them. They're in a box back behind me. And it's easier to use things that are not a part of your family, but when you read through that and you see all the personal stuff coming through, I don't know. It's easier to tell the story than to use them in your art. Brenda says, it worked, Bob. We see you. He's getting attention. I think he's getting more attention with this bobblehead than anything. His name tag. A windy day would be a problem for our Bob. A windy day. Your yellow is the person you love a lot. Someone who makes life worth living. Oh, really? Thank you. Someone who's there for you. I didn't know that. Let's go back to my notes. I did not know that, Allie K. You're yellow. Let's see. Where was that? I wrote that down. 1, 2, it must be on page 3. It must be here. Who is your yellow? So the yellow is a person who loves you a lot. You have the person you love a lot. Someone who makes life worth living. So who is Bob's yellow? I did not know that. See, I learned from you guys. Someone who makes life worth living. Well, we know Bob has a lady. That's all we know. Life worth living. So he says, I have a lady. And that's about all he's going to talk about. We'll have to learn more about his lady later. Bob is a very interesting man. Now wait, let's go back to page 4. turn this over this way. I don't know about you guys, but I'm about talked out here. Someone who's always there for you. A windy day could be a problem for Bob. A windy day. I'm writing it down. Could be a problem for Bob. He doesn't go out in bad weather, but I suppose he has to wing it some days. Maybe he puts a neck brace on. Maybe he puts a neck brace on when he goes out in the wind. Do you think? Brenda says, it was very neat writing. She's talking about the letter over in France. Swirly and pretty and nice paper. We're scared a scarf might tangle in his springy neck and choke him, Brenda said. Paint Girly, what do you think? Bob, what do you do for fun? Okay, let's go to page 5. They want to know, Bob, what you do for fun? Well, I can tell you that. He knows what he does for fun. Let's go to page 5. These are good questions. Bob, what do you do for fun? Well, besides going out with this lady, he likes to tell stories. Right? That's his fun. He likes to tell stories, but he also likes to take his lady out. Take his lady out on the town. Ooh. I know there's more to that. Out on town. So, that's the answer. That's what he does for fun. Bob could say his neck is well oiled. Oh dear. Linda, that's funny. Well oiled Bob. What do you think about Angie's review? Angie's review. Angie's review. I missed it. What was Angie's review? On her gold, about the gold flakes. I missed Angie's review. She retracted retracted her review. That's why I missed it. Allie K says, Paint Girly, what do you think? Bob Good, what do you think about Angie? She retracted her statement. I can't say anything. Allie K says, I'm too scared to make a decision. I plead the 5th. Okay. Did you time her out? I don't know. My husband has real bad dyslexia, Brenda says. Did awful in school. He told our girls he didn't read books. They started getting him picture books when they were 4 and 6. He read the books to them. Isn't that cool? So he told the stories from the pictures. How interesting is that? Her comment is up for review. Oh, I think she retracted her comment. I couldn't see it. She took it away. Brenda says, we still find him books at Christmas, and he reads to them on Christmas Eve. The night my daughter's boyfriend was here, he sat on the couch quietly listening to Bo and had tears running down his face. Oh, how sweet is that? That's a cool story. See, can't you just see that happening? I could see that happening. That's interesting, Brenda. Brenda said, he said his parents didn't read to him when he was a kid. He was 18 at the time. Aww. There's Shannon. Hi, Shannon. I'm way behind, but hi. They're saying hello to Shannon. Kathy says, Renee, how sad. That's why I read to my students every chance I could. because I know some of them don't at home. Yeah. Hi, Barbie Barnum. Uh, I'm way behind you guys, but I did see you come in. If you're out there lurking, listening, Bargie, thank you, Renee, for welcoming her in. Bo complains about my books. He has books the girls have gotten him through the years in glasses on the shelf. They put their handprints in them. We look at the tiny hands and see them grow into adults. Renee says, you're going to make me cry. Brenda, find him some Audible books. YouTube has free ones. Yeah, I like to listen to the audio books. Renee says, the handprints make me cry. They seem like they grew up so fast. They're 23. Oh, Brenda said that. They're 23 and 25 and still get books so that they can sit listening to their daddy read. They're daddy's girls. Aww. Kathy, he doesn't read for himself. He just reads to the girls. I did get a copy of Farm Boy that Rosemary showed one night. I have that book, Brenda, the Farm Boy book. Rosemary and I have the same book, believe it or not. I was showing it one night here, and Rosemary said, I have that book, and that's when she showed it. He took it, and he's reading it. The first book I ever seen him read for himself. That's cool. Hi, Monkey Mary. Welcome, welcome. Monkey Mary, I should go down to the bottom and read up rather than reading all this, but I don't want to miss anything. Allie K said, I did not know about your yellow either. I Googled it. Well, Renee, or somebody obviously knew. I think it was Renee. The yellow, your yellow is the person that you love a lot. Maybe Bob is a traveler and lives with carny folk. You mean carny like in a circus type thing? Well, obviously he speaks at conventions, so he obviously travels, but I'm wondering if maybe he's not looking for a place to settle down. Maybe he's getting tired of all the traveling. Do you think Fib Diggity might be a place he could find a home? We would accept his bobblehead. We should do a paper doll of Frederick, the lead paper criminal. Sharon did a pretty good drawing of him when we first started this story. We could do a lot of paper dolls of the Fib Diggity characters. Oh, I think I'm down at the bottom, aren't I? Bob makes cotton candy animals on his day off. Oh, Azure has an imagination. I bet I'm not going to go anywhere, Angie said. I'm in bed, but I'm not going to go anywhere. Brenda says he reads a book. He just didn't read before they started getting books for him to read. Oh, well, we got 5 pages. I feel like we got a good, you guys asked some really good questions to Bob. He's tired. He said, I've had a night of being interviewed. And I'm going to take my place here in this February art journal, but we're not done with him yet. We still have questions about his lady. This is the wrong page to put him on. No, that's right. So Bob's got some stories to tell for sure, but he's pretty tired tonight. I also wanted to touch about something that's rambling around in my head, and we got just about 10 minutes. That's all I need to talk about it. And I put it in the title, The Year of You. And I have been saying over the last few weeks, since I watched the Streamathon, how different I find it this year, particularly this year, in that for me doing these streams, it's more about, it's not about my art so much anymore when I come online. It's about sitting down and talking to you guys and sharing with you and getting to know you. Uh, and I'm calling it the year, I'm going to call 2023 the year of you. It just, I've noticed it just recently. When I first come on, I know I've expressed this before, but I wanted to share my art. I wanted to express my art. But the more I stream and the more I see you guys in, just like Azure. Azure, you've been with me for almost from the beginning, I think, and Becky too. Um, a lot of you have been with me for ever since I started streaming, and probably even before. I started streaming in 2016. I went online. I started my channel in 2013. But it was all about my art and sharing my art. This year I've noticed uh my purpose, or my reason for being coming online. It's to share my art, but it's to communicate with you. And you might see me chatting a lot more and reading through chat. And I want to express to you how much you all mean to me. You mean a lot to me. And I know some of you can't stay in very long. You have busy lives. You have families to take care of. You have other things that need to get done. I understand all that. But let me tell you, when you come in and share a few minutes of your day with me, or some of you sit clear through my whole stream, and that amazes me that you actually do that. It just touches my heart. And you send me things like Laura sent me this tabletop. She gave me a tiny attacher. She sent me garden seeds. She sent me $10 to go thrifting one day. Renee just recently sent me that big book, and she sent me 2 bottles of Yes Paste and 2 bottles of glitter glue. I've gotten all sorts of things from all of you, and let me tell you how much that humbles me and touches my heart. It's all about you. It's not about my art anymore. So you might hear me say this again, but I'm going to call 2023 and Fib Diggity the year of you. The year of you. Angie says, yep, you know me and my naps. That's okay, Angie. Yeah, Azure says years. Angie says, I want to see the movie 8 Brady. 80 Brady. I don't know what that means, Angie. Azure says, Bob makes cotton candy animals. Yeah, so I want to thank you. It's getting kind of late. It's 9:53. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts and asking Bob all his questions. You made him feel right at home. He says, I think that Fib Diggity might be a place where I might want to stick around for a while. So he's very impressed by all of you. Some questions he didn't have a ready answer for, like his lady friend, and he says, never fear about the wind. He says, I'm just thankful I have my head. Oh, thank you, Renee. It humbles me when I see those things, because I'm just a little lady sitting at this old broken down school desk that I really have messed up with art stuff. My room is crowded with stuff. I don't know how my brother puts up with me. But I'm so touched by you guys and what you do. Let me tell you, you are interesting people. You're interesting people to get to know. I can't have asked for a better way to retire. I really can't. I was a reluctant retiree. I was not ready to retire when it was forced on me by life circumstances. That's a whole nother story. But But I look back on the last 6 years and I can't think of any better way to spend my retirement years. I look at the internet and I just think we've been gifted. Like Raul. Raul was in here this morning and he was telling about, like, he was over in Paris sitting up on a high balcony overlooking the city and listening to Meri. It just blew my mind. I'm going, I wish I could be in Paris looking over, but I'm here in Nebraska, out in the boonies at my desk. But it's, when I could not be doing this if I were working full time. Just could not be doing this or spending this time. I cannot ask for a better way to spend my retirement. Angie, you do a lot for people just by showing up. We love you, Angie. All the things that you make and just your popping in, your cheerleading. It doesn't have to be physical things that you do. You just be yourself and we're happy. All right, I'm going to let you all go. Have a great weekend. Tomorrow's Saturday. My mind is blank, except for one thing I know for sure tomorrow is that Beth Schiller comes on at 6 o'clock. Everything else is a mumbo jumbo for me. Sunday, I don't know if Tanya's going to come on. She usually comes on Sunday afternoons when she comes on, but she's recovering from shoulder surgery. Sunday evening, I'll be back at... When do you, Pink Girly, do you stream tomorrow? I think, does Pink Girly stream tomorrow or Shannon? I get those schedules. They're still mixed up for me. But I'll be back Sunday night. We're not going to tell stories. We're going to do art Sunday night. So have a great weekend. Maybe I'll do some envelopes Sunday night. We'll see. I'm not sure. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye.